friends. So today's vlog is about what we do differently on a narrowboat to how we would do it if we were living in a house. So I don't know if you can hear the noise in the background, but one of the things that we do differently is we have to make sure our batteries are charged. So we're currently running the engine to charge the batteries up. We need the batteries for things like the internal lighting, the water pump, the gulper for the shower, the fridge, 12-volt fridge. So it's important that we keep those topped up. We are currently waiting for a date on when we can get our boat in to have a few jobs on, and one of those jobs is to fit a battery charger, because currently there is an inverter but there isn't a battery charger. So as I say, the only method we've got at the minute of charging the batteries is by running the engine, but once we've had the battery charger fitted while we're in the marina on shore power, that will also charge the batteries. It's not been so bad in the summer because we have got one solar panel. We are planning on having more fitted, but the one was enough to keep the batteries topped up while we weren't moving in the summer. But now obviously the light levels are considerably reduced, very little sunshine, so it's not quite enough and we're having to run the engine more. So that is one of the things. We're lucky in that while we're in a marina we're plugged into shore power, so all our other power needs, such as washing machine, it's just a little twin tub washing machine, television, we have lamps rather than the internal lights while we're in the marina. So all the things like that are powered from the shoreline, so we don't need the batteries for that. You know, electricity is not quite as straightforward in a narrowboat as it is in your house. Now, on our boat, for cooking, we have a gas cooker, but it's not quite the same as you would have in a house, in that ours runs on bottled gas. So obviously that bottled gas runs out and we have to buy a new bottle. So as you can see at the minute, the fire is in. Being December, that's probably a fairly sensible choice. It is rather warm in the boat, but if you let it go out it becomes rather cold, so the trick is to light the stove and open the windows, which I know sounds mad, but it's the only way you can sort of get it to any sort of reasonable temperature. So one thing you can do on a narrowboat to save a bit of gas and so save a bit of money, because we're burning the coal anyway to heat the boat, is you can see on there is a kettle, which is obviously for drinks throughout the day. So every time I use that, I fill it up and it goes back on top of the stove. So we've quite literally always got the kettle on if anybody pops by. And the pan that you can see on there is not just a pan idly sitting there for nothing. It has actually got my soup for my lunch on there. It's Stilton and broccoli. I've actually only just put it on, which is why it doesn't look very cooked, but it's early morning. Well, I say early morning, it's 20 past 10, but by lunchtime I will have some delicious soup that I will be able to enjoy for my lunch. So that's just one way of saving some of that gas by using your stove. You can also cook jacket potatoes in there if you want. I've seen two methods of doing this. We haven't actually tried one yet, but I've seen people put small jacket potatoes wrapped in foil in the ash pan, or the other way is to put them directly into the stove where the coals are. Now you can always wrap them in foil. You can put them straight on the coals, but they're more likely obviously to burn there. But another tip I've seen is to put a wire rack above the coals and then sit your jacket potatoes wrapped in foil on there. So there are several ways of doing it. While I'm on with the fire as well, obviously that is our method of heating. We don't have any other method of heating. And before we moved on board the boat, we had considered maybe saving up and having a heating system like a Webasto or an Eberspacher installed. And we'll see when the weather cools down, but at the minute we bank the fire up, it stays in all night, and we've checked down in the bedroom and it's about 19-20 degrees in the morning, so that's quite warm enough. Up here it's even warmer obviously. Now, one important thing that wasn't on the boat when we moved in, but we felt was absolutely essential, we've got a metal bucket for the kindling and stuff like that, because obviously if you're putting stuff close to your fire, you don't want it to be combustible. But also for the ashes, we have an ash box. It actually needs emptying, so I'll go and do that shortly, and then I can show you where we empty our rubbish as well. But importantly, obviously it's not going to cause any damage in there because it's a solid metal box, but also it's got a lid on, which if any of the ashes are still warm, you close that down, it's going to stop any carbon monoxide or anything like that escaping. So that, then we do that in the morning. Once it's cooled down, we then empty it out into the bin, and as I say, I will show where we do that. That's not just one day's ash, by the way, that's a couple of days. We don't always empty it every day. We do differently is obviously we don't have individual bins, so we recycle in a commercial recycling. We've got 3 of them, so there's plenty. They're emptied every week. We can also recycle bottles and tins provided, and then for general waste we have the 4 bins over here, which is where my ash bucket has got to go now it's been outside cooling. So again, these are emptied once a week, so I need to find one that's got enough space in, because it's actually bin day tomorrow. So let me just have a quick look. As you can see, the weather's not marvellous. It's quite full, but I think I'll get it in. Okay, so I've now emptied the ash, so back we go to the boat in the pouring rain. So we are now in the bathroom of Birdsong, and this is how we do our washing. Now, I know some narrowboats have automatic washing machines, but we don't. This is ours. So I've just turned it on just so you can see the action. This load's actually just finished, but there you can see it's a dark load. There's obviously quite a lot of colour come out of that, so it just turns the water, and that is how it washes. So then the next bit that's involved is pulling across the washing into the dryer. So this is the drying section. I don't usually dry it can wash a bigger load than it dries, so I usually put about half in and pull it over, put the little thing on, and then you close the top and close that top. Now it can be quite vigorous, so I tend to put my my leg against it so it doesn't fall off the thing, because it doesn't have a pump. It's gravity fed when the water comes out, so I have it stood on some little legs, and then it goes into the shower. It's actually going into a bucket at the minute, but I'm going to tip that out and let it go down the shower. Just turn the gulper on, because obviously I don't want to save that dirty water. Sometimes when I'm doing a white cycle and the water isn't dirty, then I will reuse it, but this I won't, so I shall tip that down there. I'll still use that to make sure that doesn't go off. So then my switch for the gulper is just behind that, so I turn that on, and then if I turn the switch for the dryer, you can hear it in a drying cycle, and it's pumping it out. That's actually not got quite enough drying in it, it's vibrating too much, so I'll put a little bit more in there. Put the top back on. And we'll start it again. Now, since winter set in, and I can't hang this lot out, I have actually resorted to buying a tumble dryer. So when it's dry, see that's a lot less shaky. So it's going out down the shower, and Gulper will just take it away. And then once it's washed and spin dry, you can see how much water it gets out. It's a pretty good spin dryer actually. Then it will go into the tumble dryer to dryer. So that's what's involved here in washing our clothes. We don't have an electricity supply in the bathroom, so we tend to bring an extension through just while I'm washing, and that's it basically. So our heating on the narrowboat, the only heating we've got is this stove. We burn wood and coal on it. We sort of have logs like this. Obviously you can, you know, if you find any on the towpath, that's fine, but they do have to be dried out. We've been, because we've only had the boat since August anyway, so we haven't had a chance to collect any, we've been buying our logs, actually just at B&M Bargains. But the thing with wood is it burns hotter but quicker than coal. So it's good if you want, like in the morning, it's good if you want sort of instant heat and you want quite a bit of it. But to keep it going, you need coal. What we use are these, they're called red hot ovoids, so it's smokeless fuel. And we put that on. Now if we bank up the fire about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, it will actually stay in all night, and it'll stay in to the point where we can just relight it in the morning, or bank it up and get it going in the morning without too much trouble. It also heats the whole of the boat. So we've been measuring the temperature down in, I know we've not had any really cold weather, but we've been measuring the temperature down in the bedroom in the early morning, and it's been anywhere between 18 and 20 degrees. Obviously it's a lot hotter in this part of the boat. So you put the fuel on, whatever you're burning obviously, and close it up. Now when we initially put that on, obviously any glowing embers that were in the bottom are covered up now, so it's going to be more difficult for it to burn. So I open the bottom vent, which is pulling air in under the fire, to the maximum. The one at the top, which is letting out smoke and gases, we always have open to the maximum. But what we do with the bottom one is once it gets going and we can see flames blazing away nicely, we actually fully shut that down, and that is what manages to keep it in all night. It also lets it burn at a much lower level, so it cools it down a little bit. Now if it gets really cold in the winter and we want it warmer, we just have to open that up a little bit. But at the minute you can see I'm sat in a vest top. We've got all the windows open because it really is quite warm in here, so you know, at the minute, once it starts going, we will shut it down. So, other things that we do differently on narrow boats, let's think. Well, there's the perennial issue of toilets. On Birdsong we have a cassette toilet, which is basically a block of 2 tanks, one on top of the other, obviously with a seat on and everything like your traditional toilet, but the bottom tank is the waste tank, fairly self-explanatory what that one does, and the top tank is the flush tank. So you fill that up with water, and you can put, I mean, I put like a washing up liquid, but not a washing up, a bio washing liquid in there. Just makes it smell a bit nice, keeps it clean as you're flushing it. But some people have what's known as a pump out toilet, which is basically a tank on board the boat that holds all the waste. It lasts a lot longer between emptying than a cassette toilet does, because it's a huge tank. An issue with that though is it does take up rather a lot of space on your boat. It's often under the bed. Well, under our bed we store an awful lot of stuff, so it would cut down on that. Plus you're carrying a tank around with all your waste in it, which I wouldn't fancy really. So at the minute we're quite happy with our cassette toilet, and some people go for composting toilets. But to me this isn't real sort of true composting unless you've got somewhere to store it until it actually turns into compost. A lot of people just bag the solid waste and put it in a bin and tip away the liquid waste, which, you know, that's basically, we're just tipping ours down the Elsan point, and you know, I think that's the way we're going to stay at the minute. It's working for us. When it comes to fresh water, so for washing, cooking, having a shower, whatever, it's the same as in a house. You go to the tap, turn it on, there's water, if you've remembered to keep your water tank full. Ours is a stainless steel water tank on Birdsong, which is quite good really, because it's a much cleaner method of doing it. You've not got the inside painted and paint flaking off, and you know, the issues of trying to deal with that, and we're quite happy to fill that up and drink out of that. Occasionally we do put in water purifying tablets, but you know, we don't do that by any means every time we fill up. We usually fill up about once a week. It's not usually empty, but we fill up about once a week just to make sure we don't run out. And at this time of year, depending on what happens with the weather, we may do it more often than that, because if the taps freeze up, obviously you've got to wait until they thaw out until you can refill your tank, and we don't want to be in the position of having no water, so we'll probably do it more often. So, you know, they're the sort of things, I mean, obvious things that we do differently are we can't have as many possessions because you just don't have room to store them. I tend now to have most of my books, because I love reading, but I tend to have most of my books on Kindle rather than in a physical form, because obviously, you know, they're much easier to store. Music's the same, it's digital, so that you haven't got the problem of storing, you know, CDs, records, whatever. So it's just about keeping down the number of possessions you've got, really. We only have the number of cups and plates and things that we need, plus a couple of extras for guests. Clothes have not really changed that much, to be honest, for Neil and Sam, but for me, I've gone down from 3 double wardrobes when I was in a house to well, probably the equivalent of 1 wardrobe. I've only got half a wardrobe on the boat, but that's winter clothes at the minute. All my summer clothes are under the bed, and obviously when the seasons change, the clothes will be swapped over and the winter ones will go under the bed. So it really is just, you know, you can have pretty much what you can have in a house, but you just have it differently. And you know, to be perfectly honest, we've only lived this life since August, but at the minute it is everything I expected it to be and more. We are absolutely loving it. So, you know, if you're thinking of doing the same, it wouldn't suit everybody. Don't just jump in, do lots of research, but if you feel it's for you, then, you know, I would recommend this life to anybody that's done enough research and feels that it's what they really want to do. So that's how we do life differently on a narrowboat. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a like. I would love to hear your comments on anything that I've talked about today. You know, what sort of toilet you prefer, how often you have to fill your water tank, how did you downsize to go onto a narrowboat, or if you're thinking about moving onto a narrowboat, what things you're expecting. Just love to hear your comments. Next time I'm going to be talking about the engine maintenance course we went on at the weekend, and just showing a few tricks for things that you can check that you maybe didn't know how to do, or didn't know what equipment to use, because we learned quite a lot. And you know, we've unfortunately we've been on Amazon and spent quite a lot gearing ourselves up for the extra things that we want to do. So once again, thanks for watching. Give it a like if you've enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos and you want to know when they're coming up, if you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, it will let you know when there's new videos. See you next time.